What's up, guys? Welcome to my first market watch video for Yu-Gi-Oh. Now, as someone who's played competitively Yu-Gi-Oh and is also an active buyer and seller for this game, I guess you could say I'm a vendor. I don't like to give myself that title, but sure, we'll go with that. I'm able to see and give insight on like what's like kind of selling, what's like meta relevant, like what's a good buy. Like I can use my competitive brain and my vending brain to kind of like gauge like what's worth it, what's seeing a lot of buyouts. Is it worth it to really buy a core? Is probably like the answer for this video. I'm probably wording this very poorly, but as you see on this first page here, I have the purely archetype up. This is getting a lot of hype right now. Several pro players on social media groups have been posting about their interest in this deck. The purely core has just been going up and up and up. I think in the last week, it's gone up at least $15-20 from previous pricing. Now, is this hype buyout pricing? Is it worth it? Well, unfortunately, I do think that, well, the pricing's a little inflated right now because of the hype, but this deck will see competitive play and for a good time coming. It sees play in the OCG, and they're technically like one or two formats ahead of us. So if this deck is still seeing play in the OCG with that far ahead, and people are hyping to play this deck even now, post Cyberstorm Access, realistically, this is going to be a deck you might need to get eventually a core for. A lot of it's being bought out right now. If you look at it, let's look at the whole set as a whole for a second. Boxes are was it four? It's 416 right now. Box around 55-60. It's almost worth to maybe, like, I would say if you have like store credit with a store and they're selling their boxes for around 50, it might be worth taking a gamble on it. Not a financial advisor, by the way. Completely not a financial advisor, but this is definitely an archetype you want to look into. But yeah, the purely pricing is probably here to stay. You're looking around 250 to 300 for the main core, unfortunately. And you definitely want to potentially test this deck before you actually buy into it to see if you like it, though, because this is not a deck for everybody. This is a slower deck that summons towers like cards and regrinds resources. So this is not going to be a deck for everybody. But if this is a type of deck that you do have interest in, I do recommend picking up this core, as it probably will have it'll probably be around for a while, realistically, post Cyberstorm Access. Now, what's also being introduced in Cyberstorm Access is Cyverse support. And Cyverse is getting some really decent support. The Cyverse deck also plays a small math mech engine. So obviously Sigma has been going up in general because the math mech deck has been seeing more play. To be honest, unless this card gets a reprint, this card's probably going to go up. The only thing I could see this card not going up for is if it gets a reprint. As far as I'm aware, up until now and until Nationals, the only reprints would be to potentially be a new OTS pack, and there's Brothers of Legend, or the new Brothers set, whatever it's called, but that won't even be before Nats. The Cyverse deck is pretty solid. I would recommend probably picking the Sigmas up now, and the Super Factorials, and the core Math Mech engine. It's gonna be a deck for sure that's gonna see play in Nats. Moving on, so the Super Heavy Samurai Monster Mash deck is getting a lot of hype. It just won an online pre-cool tournament I believe it was the Master Circuit series or something. So Peacemaker has been going up a lot due to that. They're almost $8, $9, $10 for a common, along with the other super heavy samurai cards. Now, the question is, is it worth it to really invest into this deck? In my opinion, I think this is a very strong deck. It's definitely a combo heavy deck. Unfortunately, my personal issue with the super heavy samurai deck as a whole is you can't really sideboard spells and traps or play them at all for the most part, which is pretty huge. So you do kind of lose to like one-off cards and certain floodgate type cards. Like you do have options to deal with floodgates like Arcfiend Eccentric and Trap Eater. But for the most part, the Monster Mash deck sets up a very strong board. But if they are able to break it, you probably don't have a recovery. As far as I'm aware, Dark Ruler does break the board, assuming you can clear it once you activate it. But the deck is still very strong. You'll see the super heavy samurai deck see a lot of play post Cyberstorm Access. I do have a feeling the deck will be less popular though within the first month. I think it's a good deck. Again, I don't know if it's a deck worth investing in though. As far as the pricing for these cards that are going up, unfortunately, it's gonna these prices are gonna probably stick for a little bit. I don't think these prices are gonna double up or triple up, but in terms of if you need to get these cards to play the deck, realistically the answer is yes. You will have to just take the L and pick up these cards at the current pricing. So it is what it is. One tech card though, that a lot of lists are playing that's slowly getting bought out, that you still have an opportunity to pick up, is Quillfor Genius. The ultra rare copies are only around $1 right now. I've personally been selling. I personally got bought out of these around the 80-cent mark. So if you are looking for the higher rarity one of this, because there is the rare available, I do recommend picking this one, the ultra rare copy, up now. The rare copy is almost $1 too, so there's like almost no reason to pick up this card. Now, finally, looking ahead, potentially post Nationals, Rainbow Bridge of Salvation is getting bought out quite a bit. This is mostly for the Purely deck, since they do play it as a way to try to get to the field spot faster with the Cobalt Eagle. And I believe there's one other deck in the OCG that's using it as a similar tool as well. These are shooting up to around 4 or 5. I apologize. These are definitely going to stay around the $4 mark. If you look here, Gamer's Choice has them a lot of copies available. So this card's probably going to stay around the $4 mark. Card that's you've probably had for a little bit. Now it's worth something more than $1 or $2. So it's good, something you might want to check out. And then if you want to even look further ahead, what I personally like doing is every once in a while, I'll look at big tournaments that are happening in the OCG. Now, granted, the OCG has a much different format than ours, but certain things still translate into the future for like what potentially comes into our format. Like this first place deck here, this Bestial Thunder Dragon deck, unfortunately Colossus is still not legal here. I personally believe this card will be unbanned at one day. I do have quite a few copies of this card I've been sitting on, so it's a little bit hopium on my end. But the Thunder Dragon core is something you should probably just have on the side just in case, because I do believe that core will come back at some point. And it just goes to show the deck is still really strong with the Bestial package if it does eventually come out. Again, and like I mentioned, the Purely cards are seeing play in the OCG. This list is almost can convert to the English meta. The only card that's not in the English meta is the new Sky Striker Link 2, but that's not even required for this type of deck. So what you're looking at for this list is pretty much what to expect. I mean, obviously other than Max A2, but that's besides the point. Looking ahead, we can look ahead at Vanquish Soul. This deck has been getting pretty popular in the OCG. They play a lot of tech cards. That's the first I've seen Alpha in this list. Not sure. I've seen Dogran in this list before too. I guess it's searchable. So that's a card you might want to consider having. Kurakika, I'm assuming, is also searchable since it is a fire attribute. And this package does play Small World. We go ahead and look at the extra deck. It's playing their Link 1. An archetype Link 1 is usually an indicator for a potentially strong deck as well. But this deck does look like it makes ranked 4s pretty easily and can link climb pretty well. And then looking at this list here, I guess a Shizu tier is still somewhat playable in the OCG. Them having Snow is kind of a big factor, and then having Chaos Ruler is kind of a big factor to why this deck is still playable in the OCG. So, like, knowing that these two type of cards are seeing play, I kind of don't validate this deck as much, and I don't really look at cards to potentially invest in. But, like, potential investment type cards would, in my opinion, looking at this, would maybe be potentially Dogran. And I personally believe Colossus will be unbanned one day, but that's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think of these videos. I can try to do a little more in-depth research in the future. Just giving my thoughts for the week, and hope you like it. Thanks for watching.